We welcome now the leader of the team that won that race. He is Dr. Albert Bourla. He's chairman and CEO of Pfizer, and he's the author of the brand new book, Moonshot, Inside Pfizer's 9-month race to make the impossible possible. Thank you so much for being back with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, David.
It's a fascinating book, as I told you. It's a good read. I recommend it to everybody, but I'm going to just read one passage because it takes us back to April of 2020. And we may forget now how bad things were, particularly in a place like New York City, what was happening in our hospitals, a lack of ventilators. And you had your team together. They'd worked hard. They come up with a really aggressive plan. They proposed it to you. They were very proud of it. And you said, no thanks. And what you said was, it could not be done. That is to say, really speed this up, but it had to be done. There is a time for consensus building, and there's a time to push. This was the time to push. So take us back to that moment and how your team reacted when, as I say, they'd come up with a really aggressive plan. And you said, yeah, not good enough.
Well, they tried to understand what do I mean not good enough, because they thought that this is the best that anyone could dream of having. And I knew that they were right, but also I knew that if we fail, then we have to deal with way bigger things than what could impact the company or the America would impact the world. So I told them there's no option of failing, and there's no way that we can do it, because failure is not an option, and if not us, then who?
Did they try to talk you out of it? Did they try to say, you just don't understand, doctor, it can't be done?
They were silent. I didn't leave much room to maneuver, because I knew that if I would, then doubts would start sitting in their minds. So it was very clear to me, we need to get it by October. This is when the new wave will come. Go and do it. And actually I told them, and it was a little bit of a psychological blackmail, go and calculate how many people will die if we're not successful with the vaccine by October.
So you basically said you've got 8 months, more or less, 9 months to get this done. Something that in success, and it wasn't guaranteed there was any success, would be 8 or 10 years. So this was a revolutionary shift. How did they get it done? How did they reinvent the whole thing that fundamentally?
I think that's the thing, that the goal was so hairy, so obscene, that they had to think out of the box. If you ask them, instead of 10 years to do it in 8 years, they will try to improve the current processes. If you ask them to do it in 8 months, they have to refigure everything. And this is what they did. The same is with manufacturing, which I call in the book the second miracle. In Pfizer, we're making 200 million doses of all vaccines across all manufacturing sites in a year. I didn't ask them now with COVID to make 300. I told them make 3 billion. They couldn't do it by improving the current processes. They had to think completely out of the box, and this is what they did.
And so now we have this wonderful vaccine that so many of us have had, and it relieves a lot of the anxiety as well as some of the disease that we all have. What's next for your mRNA? For example, an Omicron variant, is that on the way? Is it a 4th booster? Is it young children? What's next from your point of view? What are the priorities?
Of course. First of all, I think we have the vaccines and we have the treatments. And when it comes to the vaccines, the goal is always to stay ahead of the virus. Actually, today in the morning before coming here, I was reviewing new data of all our studies. They look encouraging, but I can't speak now. We need to wait until we see the full set of the data. But we are trying to bring something that it is a new version that will cover equally well the old and the new variants, all variants, pan-variant vaccine.
But we are trying to bring something that it is a new version that will cover equally well the old and the new variants, all variants, pan-variant vaccine.
And I think we are in a good way. But also on the treatments, we have already launched a treatment into the American and European marketplace, and this has the potential to be a game changer, because if people that they are sick get it, instead of 10 people going to the hospital, only 1 will go.
10 people going to the hospital, only 1 will go.
So I understand you don't have the data yet, but do you have a sense of a timeline when you think you will have data on, for example, under 5 or Omicron variants, or for that matter, 4th booster?
Each one has different timelines. I believe that for the kids we will know next month. I believe for the Omicron we will know likely next month, early, maybe this month as well. Depends how much we are going to announce to the world, because we are wanting to have a more complete picture before we go. And the same is with the 4th dose booster we are about to submit to the FDA. So things are happening as we speak right now.
So one of the things that comes across in the book is from the beginning you said, don't worry about the money. Believe it or not, you said just spend what you need to spend, whatever it is. We'll figure out the money later, which is not what a lot of CEOs perhaps would do in that circumstance. In the end, it turned out very well for Pfizer.
In the end, it turned out very well for Pfizer.
Give us a sense of going forward and patent protection on your COVID vaccine. We have some people like Deva saying they're going to have a generic. How long do you think you'll have that protection, and what sort of an income stream might that mean for Pfizer going forward?
Look, I think the patents is the way the industry exists. Without, let's say, protecting your intellectual property, you have nothing else, and you invest all this money so that you can intellectual property. But the patents last for a period of time. So for every new medicine, very rarely a patent will go beyond 10 years, for example. So then everybody can come and do the same very cheap. This is the same here with our vaccines. Now, because of it is pandemic, we made sure that patent will not be in the way of people having access. So that's why we priced it in a way that it is accessible to all, but also we manufacture enough so everybody will have. Right now, for example, countries in Africa, they have enough access. Actually, the African CDC last week asked publicly us and others to stop sending them vaccines because they cannot absorb it. They have issues with infrastructure, hospitals, infrastructure to be able to administer.
We have another crisis right now, obviously in Ukraine, and we all watch in horror as civilians are losing their lives out there day by day. There's also a lot of refugee movement, over 1.7 million now, it's said. What does that mean potentially with respect to actually the COVID? Because, for example, I've heard about a third of Ukrainians are vaccinated. What happens with those 1.1 million refugees coming across into Poland? How do we get them vaccinated?
Yes, a third are vaccinated, and actually most of them with our own vaccine. I had discussions with President Zelensky before, and we were able to send them enough quantities before the crisis. Now, the risk it is with the people that are coming together in big conglomerates into the refugee and in the borders with Poland. We are sending vaccines, treatments, and other medications because they're going to be needed over there. And of course, we are trying to help not only our own employees in Ukraine, but also the Ukraine with a lot of donations.
Finally, this is International Women's Day. I'm mindful of that. And one of the things that comes out across in your book is the role of women at the very top of your company in this race to create and distribute the vaccine. It's quite extraordinary.
Oh, yes. Every day almost, maybe at least 2-3 times per week, I had in front of my Zoom computer screen everybody, and most of them were women, or at least half of them, but also the leaders. I mean, Catherine Janssen, which is the head of our vaccines, she was pivotal in the vaccine, and so many others. But also on the treatment, you need to know that Charlotte Allerton, the head of medicinal design, she's the one who designed this molecule in 4 months instead of 4 years. And Lisa Anderson, also the one who put it in the clinic. So a lot of women played their role in this treatment.
So one last one, Albert, because we hear from so many companies, there just aren't the women. It has to take time to get them in the pipeline. There's really a problem grooming them. How have you mastered that? I mean, how has Pfizer been able to have so many accomplished senior women?
I would say how Pfizer was blessed to have so many accomplished senior women, and I think it's an effort, but also a belief in their capabilities. And I have been impressed in my life when women make it to the top. They are really way better than men because they have to face way more difficult conditions than a man. We have to admit it.